Round one.
Salve Omnes, and welcome back to the channel. It's been a while since I last uploaded, so my apologies there. I've had a couple of hectic weeks, but I will try to be more consistent going forward. Nevertheless, thank you for your patience. We are covering the OG heavy Viking hero Warlord. Warlord is one of the Dominion minions after drinking a lot of mead, eating a lot of game, and having a brief career with the WWE. True story. Warlord received some buffs come Season 9, with additional chains that he so desperately needed, along with an undodgeable zone attack and damage increases across the board. Before these changes, Warlord's kit was quite anemic and he was a predictable opponent.
Victory.
This guide will assume that you know the basics of For Honor combat, and you are also familiar with the terminology, such as guard breaks, parrying, chains and feints etc., and is aimed at new and existing players to help learn a new character. Thank you all again, by the way, for all the amazing comments and feedback you have all given me, and welcome to all my new subscribers. You all make these videos worthwhile. And with that out of the way, we can start the guide, beginning with Warlord's chains. Focused Strikes is a light opener into a heavy finisher. Hack and Slash is the opposite, with a heavy opener into a light finisher. Elder's Strikes is 2 light attacks in a row, and Elder's Whirl is 2 heavies back to back. Light openers from the side hit for 13 damage, light finishers from the side hit for 15 damage. Light openers from top guard hit for 17, and light finishers from top guard hit for 20. Warlord's top light opener is slower than the other light attacks at 600 milliseconds. Heavy openers from top guard hit for 30 damage, and finishers from the top hit for 35. Heavy openers from the side hit for 35, and heavy finishers hit for 40. Warlord's light openers have superior block during startup. By correctly timing a light attack against opposing attacks of the same direction, Warlord will block and strike at the same time. The light becomes unblockable and does increase damage. The damage increases to 29 on a superior top light and 25 on an attack from the side. This can only be done against attacks that can be blocked normally, and Warlord is able to continue his chain afterwards. Warlord's heavy attacks are uninterruptible or have hyper armor. This is represented by a white flash on Warlord and means that even if the Warlord is attacked during the armor, he will not be interrupted and will still strike the opponent. This is used for trading with your opponent. You will still take full damage from the attack, so avoid relying on this mechanic at low health. Perform a head splitter leap one of 2 ways. When out of lock and sprinting towards your opponent, press heavy attack. This attack hits for 35 damage and always strikes top guard. It has hyper armor but cannot be feinted once started and cannot be used to start chains. This attack can also be performed when locked on by dodging forwards and pressing heavy attack. Both variations of the head splitter leap have the same properties. There is, however, a follow-up option after a head splitter leap. By pressing guard break immediately after, Warlord will headbutt the opponent. If the headbutt successfully hits your opponent, press light attack to confirm a stab dealing 15 damage. The headbutt can be evaded, however, and you cannot follow up with the light attack if the headbutt misses. You can also perform the headbutt from neutral by dodging forwards and pressing guard break. If this connects, you can confirm your light follow-up. The headbutt can be used to ledge opponents and knock them into hazards too, but there is little pushback on the move, so near such hazards becomes a mix-up between headbutt and a standard guard break. Do not overuse the headbutt, however. Whilst it can confirm damage, you will be vulnerable to a guard break and other dodge punishes should the move be evaded. Warlord's zone attack hits for 25 damage and has the undodgeable property. This is represented by a blue trail on screen during the attack. The zone has decent range as Warlord will move forwards during the attack. The zone always hits your opponent's right guard and has quite a wide hitbox, and despite the sword being swung out to the right, can still hit opponents to Warlord's left as well. Warlord possesses a full block stance. By moving your guard direction downwards, Warlord will crouch behind his shield. During this stance, Warlord is able to block attacks coming from any direction. Activating full block stance requires stamina, and your stamina will start to deplete whilst ever you maintain the stance. Any attacks blocked whilst in this stance also drain stamina from you. You will, however, not receive any chip damage from any heavy attack that you block. Whilst in full block stance, press heavy attack to perform Board and Blade, an undodgeable attack hitting your opponent's right guard dealing 30 damage. This attack cannot start chains or be feinted, and despite its undodgeable property, does not have as much forward momentum of Warlord's zone, so whilst it cannot be dodged, it certainly can be outspaced. Warlord does have some follow-up options if his shield is struck during full block stance. By pressing light attack immediately after, you can counter-stab the opponent for 15 damage. There is an important distinction to be made here, and that is that the stab after a full block, or the stabs after headbutt, all come from the right. This means that a correctly timed counter-stab can always hit your opponent, with one crucial exception. If the attack you countered is a 500 milliseconds or less attack, in other words a light attack, and your opponent's attack came from the left, the counter stab will be blocked. However, the stab will cause chip damage and not be repelled, despite it being classed as a light attack. Which is where the other full block counter comes into play. Pressing guard break after blocking an attack whilst in full block stance performs a headbutt, which in turn can confirm the follow-up stab. Even the mighty headbutt, however, can fail. This is a very rare circumstance, but during testing, I found that delaying the headbutt would sometimes allow the opponent to dodge, so if you are to use this punish, make sure your inputs are immediate. Board and Blade has a similar problem. A delayed input can stop the punish from connecting. Against light attacks, there is a very, very small window where a correctly timed input can net the punish. However, this attack can only be guaranteed against high recovery attacks, or heavy attacks, hitting your top or right guard. Immediately after a parry, press guard break to perform the shield counter. This sees Warlord bash the opponent with his shield. This stuns your opponent and can ledge also. It deals 20 stamina damage, so can be used to exhaust your opponent. Pressing light attack after the shield counter will confirm a follow-up stab for 15 damage. When out of lock and sprinting towards your opponent, press guard break for a crashing charge. Warlord will start to push the opponent and can be used to ledge opponents and wall splat them. Just tapping guard break will merely be a push, but useful against out of stamina opponents to unbalance them. Holding guard break down will see Warlord carry his opponent much further. Using crashing charge to wall splat your opponents can yield different results depending on when you let go of guard break. If you slam the opponent into the wall and hold guard break for the full duration, the opponent will suffer 60 stamina damage and be stunned. You can also release guard break before hitting the wall to still confirm a wall splat. You sacrifice the stamina drain here for quicker recovery from the charge. Warlord's regular throws behave much the same way. When throwing with Warlord, no matter the direction, holding down guard break will carry the opponent further. Holding guard break all the way into the wall will deal the same stamina drain and stun effect seen in crashing charge. However, this does not seem to work when throwing the opponents backwards. Now for the punishers. On guard break, you get a top heavy for 30 damage. The side heavies are too slow and can be blocked. Alternatively, you can confirm a zone attack for 25 damage. Although it deals less damage and uses more stamina, this option might just save your life if you're outnumbered. Wall splat punishers are awkward with Warlord. If you slam your opponent into the wall completely for the stamina drain, you can get a side heavy for 35 damage, providing your guard was already to the side when you threw the opponent. So if your guard was to the right, you can get a heavy from the right. The easier and more consistent punish is to go for a top heavy for 30 damage. This will connect regardless of where your guard was prior to the throw. If you release the throw early and wall splat, you will be able to confirm either a side heavy or head splitter leap, both dealing 35 damage. Dealer's choice here, either heavy for the chain follow-ups or the leap for a potential headbutt. On a heavy parry, you have quite a few options. You can net a top light for 17 damage. You can headbutt into stab for 15 damage. Zone attack is also confirmed for 25 damage providing you have the stamina. And finally, you can shield counter combo for 15 damage and a large amount of stamina drain. Light parries are nice and simple, side heavy for 35 damage. If you successfully guard break your opponent when you are out of stamina, you can confirm a side light for 13 damage. The top light is too slow and can be blocked. If you are close enough to wall splat your opponent, make sure you release them early and they still hit the wall. You can confirm a side heavy for 35 damage so long as your guard is already to the side when you threw, or you can confirm a top heavy for 30 damage. Parrying a light attack when you are out of stamina gives you a top light for 17 damage. When throwing an out of stamina opponent, you need to pay attention to where your guard is when you throw, as the punish changes depending on whether your guard is in top or to the side. If your guard is to the top, you throw in any direction and input a top heavy into side heavy for 70 damage. If your guard is to the side, however, the punish is head splitter leap into headbutt and stab for 50 damage. Something important of note here is that if you fully wall splat an out of stamina opponent into a wall for the stun, they will not become unbalanced. When parrying an out of stamina opponent, the punish is top light into side heavy for a total of 57 damage. You have two options for revenge activation: top light into side heavy for 69 damage, or head split Illipe into headbutt and stab for 66 damage. Before I cover the feats and perks, with Warlord's free roam emotes, Shotgun and Why Me, swap them round for some emote spam fun. Warlord is one of the best teabaggers in the game. You know, if that's your kind of thing. Speed Revive is an excellent feat choice and the best one out of his 3 tier 1 choices. Faster revives are always helpful and help offset painfully long respawn times in Breach. Rush has a quick cooldown and is going to be your go-to pick for tribute to offset movement penalties while carrying the offerings. Deadly looks good on paper, but its effect is only active for 3 seconds after you hit your opponent. Warlord struggles to open opponents, so this only serves to strengthen your out of stamina punishers. Bear Trap is one of the best feats in the game. From blocking objectives, choke points, and straight up guaranteeing damage, this should be your go-to pick. Juggernaut is underwhelming. Constant hyper armor sounds good along with damage reduction and slippery, but all your opponents really have to do is move away from you to negate any benefit you would otherwise gain. Flesh Wound is misleading, just like Deadly. You have to take a hit first for the defense buff to activate. Can reduce confirmed chain damage such as Orochi's top light combo, and reduces out of stamina punishes dealt to you. Fury grants decent buffs that can grant more damage and survivability, but for Warlord its main draw is turning his Fire Flask into a pocket nuke. Tough as Nails gives you 35 extra max HP, making Warlord the highest HP character with this feat active. Self-explanatory for why this is a good choice. Punch Through doubles your chip damage. Not much else to say here, it's the worst pick of the tier 3 options. Regenerate basically requires you not to be playing for this to work. It only activates when you are not locked on and either stood still or walking. No sprinting allowed and doesn't work when you're out of stamina either. Just go heal in a zone instead. Auto Revive is unique to Warlord and lets you rise from your grave, so long as you weren't executed. It has a 3-minute cooldown time after being used, but has niche uses in stalling in zones or finishing off a low health opponent who thought they'd finished you off. Fire Flask is one of the best AoE damage feats in the game. High damage, kills minions and pikemen, can be used to damage the ram, inflicts damage over time to other heroes, and can be used inside of structures unlike other tier 4 feats like Catapult or Arrow Storm. Warlord gets pretty decent perks. Shields Up is always good for high HP characters. Bulk Up can be used to stretch Warlord's HP even higher. Bastion lets Warlord escort the ram with a little more protection and makes him difficult to remove from zones, especially if he's running Tough as Nails. Vengeful Barrier is still one of the best perks in the game, and Fresh Focus is still a strong defensive option, but can be passed over since the recent stamina changes. Aegis is not worth picking over your other options. Last Stand combines well with Bastion and Vengeful Barrier, but there are better options. Overall, Warlord is sadly a disappointing hero. High damage heavies with hyper armor are nice, but Warlord fails to open opponents at high level play, and his full block stance is very weak compared to other heroes, with inconsistent and underwhelming punishers. Hopefully he gets more attention in the future and he becomes a little more viable. If you found this guide helpful, then please leave it a like and consider supporting the channel by subscribing. Remember to tick the bell icon to receive notifications of new content, and please comment down below if I've missed anything out or you have any questions. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Ciao for now!